Layla Yim-Sarat, the Director of Strategy and Engagement for P4G, Partnering for Green Growth and Global Goals. I did get the 4Gs all sorted out. 2030, she's with the World Resources Institute, and we're just so pleased that through her relationship with Jen Merritt at the Ignatian Center, I've come to know her work and now her colleagues' work. So just a fantastic connection. And then Ade Okuwoga, who's the project development lead for and founder of Savo Project Developers, and Holly Serret, the senior sustainability manager at Global Fashion Agenda in Denmark, working on circular fashion partnerships. And the point of this session today really is to look at partnerships between business, government, and civil society, and see how they're crucial to meeting the challenges of climate change. And this session will show how economic development and environmental sustainability can go hand in hand, using examples of innovative green growth models from Kenya and Bangladesh. Layla is the Director of Strategy and Engagement, and she's a seasoned professional with extensive US and international management and environmental policy experience in the nonprofit, public, and private sectors. As Head of Strategy and Engagement for Partnering for Green Growth and Global Goals at the World Resources Institute, or WRI, as it might be referred to today, Layla leads the effort to support developing countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And she helps them pursue green growth strategies in energy, water, agriculture, cities, and circular economy. Ade Okuwoga is a founder and project developer lead with Savo. He brings commercial, technical, and entrepreneurial expertise overseeing Savo's West African and Ethiopian operations and project pipeline. Previously, he led Systemique's project development team in Ethiopia, worked in strategy with McKinsey & Company in oil and gas strategy with Chevron in Nigeria, and at the United Nations Industrial Energy Efficiency in Vienna. Ade holds a master's in sustainable energy from Imperial College London and a bachelor's in chemical engineering from University College of London. He has extensive experience working with private and public institutions in sub-Saharan Africa. So welcome, Ade. Holly joined the Global Fashion Agenda as Senior Sustainability Manager in May 2020 to mobilize and guide the fashion industry to take bold action on sustainability. In her role, she is responsible for researching, project leading, and writing new and existing GFA publications, commitments, and reports, such as the CEO Agenda. Serret is a World Economic Forum Global Shaper, a climate reality leader, and she holds a BA in Fashion and Branding from the Amsterdam Fashion Institute. As part of the Global Shapers community, she co-founded the Shaping Fashion movement that is now active in more than 50 cities worldwide. So welcome to all three of you. And the format for today is that each of our wonderful panelists is going to take some time to share their story, and then at the end, we'll open it up for questions and discussion. So take it away, and thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kristen. Really appreciate this opportunity to chat with everyone and to present our work, and also to have Holly and Ade participating, because we found that showing these very concrete examples are always very inspiring. Terrific. I find it helpful to just set the context and remind all of ourselves of why is it we're here in this conversation, and why do we as businesses, as individuals, as governments need to take action. So as you well know, climate change is now an existential threat and the greatest challenge facing this generation. Carbon dioxide levels have increased over the last 100 years dramatically due to industrialization. Currently, the CO2 concentrations are approximately twice what they have been on average over the last 800,000 years. And humans are the reason for that. And this increase in CO2 emission concentrations is what's causing global warming. And so in 2015, almost all countries came together and adopted the Paris Climate Agreement and made commitments to limiting their greenhouse gas emissions and lowering their greenhouse gas emissions. So the Paris Agreement has a goal of trying to limit the increase in temperatures to between 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. And that may not seem like a lot, but just to put it into context, over the last 50 years, global temperatures have risen approximately 0.8 degrees Celsius. That's not even 1 degree. And yet we all have seen the consequences of that. We've seen record-breaking heat waves, record-breaking wildfires, droughts, extreme weather events. And in the last 20 years, we've seen 19 of the hottest years on record. And that's just with 0.8 degree increase. So if we were all to just go about business as usual, scientists predict that there would be between a 4 to 5 degree increase in Celsius, and this is about a 7 to 9 degree Fahrenheit increase over the next 80 years. That would be catastrophic. But even under the Paris Agreement and the commitments that countries made 5 years ago to limit their emissions and reduce their emissions, that still is not enough, because scientists estimate that even under the current commitments, there would still be a 2.7 to 3.7 increase in global warming. So this is why we are called to action. Oftentimes, when you think about businesses and economic growth, it's presented as either or situation, either growth and profits and jobs, or protecting the environment. Well, that really is a false narrative. And this is what this discussion here today is about, is focusing on this new paradigm that economic growth and jobs can go hand in hand with environmental sustainability. And instead of having companies pursue a single bottom line of profits, that really there's this opportunity to pursue the triple bottom line of planet, people, and profit. In fact, a report by the New Climate Economy showed that pursuing a green economy will lead to growth opportunities, that smart climate policies lead to greater economic efficiency, technology innovation, lower risks to businesses and society, more competitiveness, and greater jobs. And in fact, pursuing climate action and green growth could lead to over $26 trillion in economic benefit and 65 million new green jobs. But to accomplish this, we really need to work in partnership. And as Pope Francis said, the time for seeking global solutions is running out. We can find suitable solutions only if we act together and in agreement. And this really is what is at the core of P4G, the program that I am helping to implement through the World Resources Institute. So P4G's mission is to help to accelerate concrete public-private partnerships in developing countries that help countries meet their climate commitments and their sustainable development goals. So P4G is comprised of a network of 12 partner countries, including Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Denmark, the Netherlands, and South Korea. And we're also comprised of 5 global organizations, including the World Resources Institute and the World Economic Forum. And we also engage businesses very critically. So P4G works with government, with the finance sector, with the private sector, civil society, and consumers, and collaborates across different sectors to develop innovative new solutions and new business models for green growth. We work with our partner countries to co-create these concrete partnerships, which Ade and Holly will go into just two examples of the partnerships we're supporting. We invest in them with funding support. We help to accelerate the partnerships work by connecting them and engaging them with our global network, as well as the national networks that we help to develop and support in our partner countries. And all of this in order to deliver results. We currently have over 50 concrete partnerships being implemented in over maybe 20 countries, including Kenya, Ethiopia, Colombia, Chile, Bangladesh. So it's very exciting now that we're entering the 4th year of our program to have such a wonderful portfolio of projects that we're supporting. So what are the goals of each of these individual partnerships? Well, there are a range of different outcomes that we're trying to support. First is supporting businesses who are involved with the specific partnership to reach a commercial launch of their product or even their business. And Ade will provide a great example of how the P4G partnership helped lead to this new business opportunity for Savo project developers. Also, we're working to drive investment into the developing countries, into the infrastructure, and by laying the foundation for green growth as opposed to brown growth. Developing a pipeline of projects. So it's not just a one and done, but really ideally identifying a series of projects that can then ultimately lead to the market creation of this new way of doing business. And then working with our partner governments to help address barriers and help to implement policy reforms and legislation so that these solutions can be scaled. And again, it's the sort of model, the model for change of how do you go from a specific project to really scaling and having a much greater impact. Partnerships also work to mobilize political, consumer, corporate commitments to climate change goals and sustainable development. And Holly will be able to provide a terrific example of how they are working to mobilize the brand's commitment to sustainability. And finally, I'm focusing on a range of different knowledge products and platforms in order to be able to broadcast the good work that's being done and to share the knowledge. So P4G has in our network businesses, governments, NGOs, and they contribute in a number of different ways. So you might think, well, business, of course, they're contributing to the commercial launch and investment. But in addition to that, they can be extremely important advocates to the government for policy reforms. And they oftentimes have the clearest idea of what are some of these barriers or what are some of the policies that need to be put in place to help accelerate these new green markets. They also have great innovation, and by working with P4G, we have the ability to help to broadcast the work that the company's doing. So we are helping to share this knowledge. Governments, you may think, well, of course they're involved with policies and enabling legislation, but they can also be critical to helping companies and market development through subsidy programs, through different national programs to help accelerate the market development. And of course, they can be extremely important in helping to share the knowledge across countries and across regions. And nonprofits are real leaders in terms of the sustainability approach, but they can also be extremely important in helping to inform what type of policies need to be addressed and put in place, as well as helping to work in partnership with governments and with corporates on helping to identify new commercial opportunities. So that is just to give you a sense of the web that we see is really important in developing sort of this ecosystem to help support and accelerate the partnerships we're supporting. And then lastly, I just want to highlight an upcoming opportunity for you all to hear more about P4G. One of the things we do is work to, in these global convening moments, to help showcase the good examples, the good innovation, the good work being done by the partnerships. The government of Korea, and specifically President Moon Jae-in, will be hosting a P4G summit next month. It's going to be online, virtual, and you all are welcome to register and participate in the different seminars and the different sessions. There'll be the Green Week, May 24th through 28th, with lots of different sessions going on about these innovations that companies and thought leaders are pursuing. And then there'll be the leaders session, May 30th and 31st. And we're really excited that there will be CEOs, there will be presidents, prime ministers, ministers, all participating and sharing the commitments that their companies and organizations are following and implementing to pursue environmental sustainability. So that is it in terms of P4G. And at this point, I'd love to turn it over to, I think, Kristen, is it Ade who is next?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to the folks. Well, I'm not sure if I'm the only one in Europe, but I might be. Good day to you all. Thanks so much for having me. Leila, thanks so much for inviting me. I think the last time I was on a call with you, or I've seen your face, was when we were in Ethiopia giving that presentation. But it's really good to see you again. Let me share my screen so I can start this presentation. So as has been mentioned already, my name is Ade Okuwoga. I'm a co-founder of Savo Project Developers. So Ade Okuwoga, a co-founder of Savo Project Developers, and we are essentially dedicated project developers looking to work with sustainable businesses, projects, and assets at the moment in sub-Saharan Africa, East and West Africa specifically. Our aim is really to bring these SDG-aligned projects to bankability and unlock foreign direct investment and jobs in countries where it's incredibly important. So we work on two sort of service lines. One is around working with entrepreneurs. The other is around working with investors. And we work with sustainable industrial clusters, real estate developments, low carbon utilities, and other sort of assets that are really important to get investment into right now. But where we've really made a name for ourselves is around sustainable industrial clusters. And that's where we've received an incredible amount of support from the P4G team. Starting, back in 2018, we were working with one free zone in Nigeria, and P4G supported us to scale into Kenya and Ethiopia to identify opportunities to replicate that model. Maybe it's a good time to kind of level set of what is SEZ. It's essentially a location that has preferential policies, fiscal and non-fiscal policies that encourage industrial or other manufacturing activities in country. P4G also has helped us to put together all of our thinking and our concepts around sustainable industrial clusters into a knowledge product. So in November 2020, we launched the How to Get Stuff Done knowledge product alongside P4G. And you can download that at savo.earth if you're looking to do more reading on that. And I'll give a little bit of background on what this really means. So I'll talk about the concept of these SICs. I will go into some of the details of one of our projects in Kenya, and then I'll also give you a little bit of rationale for why I got involved in this space. I am a Nigerian national, so if I happen to talk about Nigeria and stray into that, you'll have to excuse me. So essentially, what we're talking about here is clusters of investment or industrial activity that can be done in a sustainable way. I came at this from the angle of, industrialization is going to take place anyway. How do we make sure it takes place in a way that's inclusive, sustainable, and promoting environmental and social outcomes? There are about 5,000 SEZs, EPZs, industrial parks across the world with varying degrees of success. And they're moving into a do no harm kind of mindset where they're saying, what are the standards? Let's make sure we don't put this into the water. Let's make sure that we pay, a minimum wage. But the next horizon, which is what we're talking about with these SICs, is how do we actually encourage a new way of working, and how do we start to attain some of that private sector opportunity that Leila mentioned in her message, right? The Business and Sustainable Development Commission did a report in 2017 that said, attainment of the SDGs, there was a private sector opportunity of 1.1 trillion in Africa alone. So there's a whole bunch of opportunity around doing business in a better way. How do we encourage or create a platform in which people can do that? And so when we're developing these SICs, there are 5 ways in which they are distinct from conventional developments. The first is around mandating sustainable operating principles. So if anyone coming into a development that we're working on will be signing a pledge or charter around sustainability principles to really push themselves to say, what do they want to do better? They'll be adhering to IFC performance standards. They will be adhering to ILO standards. So they'll be setting themselves above what is typically regulated within the country that they're operating in. And that's a real important part of this concept, because conventionally that's left to the devices of the individual companies. The second is how we pick our sectors. The first stage in the process is a pre-feasibility study, which includes a hotspot analysis, an SDG hotspot analysis that says, for this location, what are the most important sectors that we can be focusing on? And later I'll go into the textile value chain and opportunity that we're working on in Kenya. And that's really with a lens to say, what are the opportunities for social and environmental impact? The third is taking a landscape approach to the value chain. So not just, picking sectors that can function within the enclave, but saying how will that feed into a broader ecosystem, and how can we engage with broader stakeholders to make that work, where actually P4G has been incredibly helpful, again, in Kenya, in cajoling the stakeholders to sessions that can make this a reality. The fourth is around embedding circular economy principles, or principles of industrial symbiosis. So how can we set our sectors up within the SIC itself, so that we can be promoting resource efficiency? A quick example of that in Nigeria, is where we're going from diesel generation into gas, and then finally into LNG, solar, and biomass. And not only is that moving into a cleaner system where we're reducing the amount of fossil fuels used, but we're also reducing the price of the manufacturers. So it's a really important selling point for the SIC, but it also makes sense from a sustainability perspective. And most of my morning has actually been negotiating with a cashew processor in Nigeria to get the offtake for their husk that they're going to be processing. So the final element that we embed is around investment. So investing upfront in these kind of infrastructure, climate smart initiatives actually helps us to reduce cost in the long term and make it much more competitive. So it's really, from a business perspective, it makes a lot more sense. But this is where we come up with the challenge with getting the funds from the DFIs, from the financial institutions, and sometimes even from private equity companies that are actually willing to take the type of risk that's necessary at an early stage. So I wouldn't say that all of these have never been done before, but I would say the collective application of these elements is what makes SICs distinct. So the facility that we're going to be talking about a little bit more today, and I'm not even sure if I'm on time or not, I'm guessing someone will give me a nod, is the Oserian Two Lakes development, which is a greenfield project, but anchored by a flower company called Oserian. They're one of the largest this is flower stems, not flower powder, flower companies in East Africa. They have amazing sustainability credentials. And what they're looking to do is using their business as an anchor for a broader industrial development. So at the moment, they are using a lot of water from the Naivasha Lake, but through their rainwater harvesting systems, they're actually able to put more water back in the lake than they're taking out. They have a geothermal plant that they run for all of their production facilities, which has a great synergies with the CO2 that they require for their planting. So they have a lot of initiatives going on already that speak to a lot of the sustainability mandates and principles that we believe in, which is why we decided to partner with them. So what we're looking to develop here is the industrial park, which is an anchor to a much broader mixed-use development, but will contain mostly sustainable textile and apparel, agri-processing and food, and some other logistics services. And what's really interesting about this is the textile and apparel industry is, traditionally that's going to be very heavy on water consumption, very heavy on chemicals usage, and requires a lot of safeguards if it's going to be done in a sustainable way. So the idea of sitting them next to a company that has already started doing that kind of work has been really important. And I think a lot of the global corporates that we've been engaging with have seen that in the value proposition of Oserian Two Lakes. So it's located about 3 hours outside of Nairobi, and it's in Kenya, which has a great reputation of being a very stable country, a very welcoming location for foreign direct investment. We're looking at quite a strong competitive advantage, and the experience of the partners that we're working with is really what's going to shine through here. So we've taken exactly the same kind of elements that we talked about before in how we've developed the Oserian Two Lakes facility. An interesting part that I want to highlight is that it actually sits within a wildlife sanctuary and a national park. So a really important part about the strategic locations that we pick is about saying, these are industrial complexes that will develop. How do we make sure that they develop in a way that's truly sustainable? So if we weren't teaming up with the Oserian guys in developing this facility, it could be developed by someone else, and then we don't really know how they would interact with the wildlife that is around and how they would appreciate the nature that's there. A fun fact is Hell's Gate is a really important national park in Kenya, as it was actually the if anyone remembers Lion King, where Simba's being held up, Pride Rock is actually in Hell's Gate. So this is a really, really important area with tons of wildlife. So making sure that we're setting up the industrial park so that it can live in collaboration with the wildlife that's there is super important. The corridor that we're developing in Kenya is really end to end. It's looking at where does Oserian Two Lakes sit in the broader development of textiles in the country. So from Kisumu, where there is cotton production, through to Osirian, where we're looking at more of the heavy or the heavy water intensive industrial part. The final point that I wanted to say is, why did I get involved? Practical sustainability, a just transition, I think is super important. So always keeping that lens. The job creation potential is super important for sub-Saharan Africa right now. Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, these are countries that are growing at 2% a year with millions of people entering the workforce. It's super important that we're finding jobs for these people and really tangible impact. I'm hoping in 5-10 years, I can point at something that's been developed. So apologies for running over, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Amazing. Well, thank you first for the invitation. It's really wonderful to be here and to talk about my favorite topic, and that's sustainable fashion. I'd like to start with a short introduction to the Global Fashion Agenda, and that's the organization that I work at. As Kirsten said, we are based out of Denmark. So not the only person dialing in from the European Union today. And my name's Holly. I work as the Senior Sustainability Manager there. Global Fashion Agenda is the leading forum for sustainable fashion globally, and our mission is to mobilize fashion leaders to act boldly on sustainability. So we really work to make sustainability a high priority on top of the fashion agenda, and then we organize events to convene the industry and to conduct research, realize publications, and most recently realize impact-oriented programs, so we can help set the agenda, provide research and insights, and then guide the industry to taking the steps that are necessary on both environmental and social aspects as well. Here you can see a bit of an overview of activities that we were working on in 2020, going from masterclasses to inform journalists and help them get a better understanding to fashion and sustainability so they can have more targeted publications, to, you can see at the bottom, a Fashion on Climate report that we worked on with McKinsey to identify where carbon emissions are really created in the fashion industry and where the greatest abatement potential is, so we can direct investment effectively to get us back on track to meet the Paris Climate Agreement, and a few of the other activities. And what I'll be talking a little bit more about today is our partnership, the Circular Fashion Partnership, which has been realized in collaboration with Partnership for Green Growth and several other partners. And if I do go over time, or I'm going close to, will someone please let me know, because this is my favorite topic, so I can talk quite a bit about it. So at Global Fashion Agenda, we really believe in a holistic approach to sustainability, looking at both social aspects such as better wage systems, safe and respectful work environments, as environmental aspects such as efficient use of resources and smarter use of materials. We believe in a circular system that brings both the environmental and social together, and that a circular system will be the way forward to really revolutionize the fashion industry, as you could say. So we believe we need to take a step away from the current system, which extracts resources, creates products, and then wastes the products after use, to a closed loop system where materials and human value is really valued and kept in a closed loop. So as you can see, the bullets on the left, we believe that the circular approach should be implemented throughout the full fashion value cycle, starting at design stage, so that products are designed for reuse and they're actually made sustainably. Waste is eliminated. The lifetime of products is extended, so stepping away from fast fashion or a throwaway experience to fashion. I've seen advertisements that sometimes clothing can even be cheaper than a cup of coffee, which is absurd if you think about the journey that a piece of clothing has been on before it reaches your shopping bag. And of course, that people who work in the fashion supply chain are rewarded fairly and treated respectfully. And even, but going beyond that, have brighter future prospects, so aren't just living and working hand to mouth. Lastly, that products that are no longer viable are used as feedstock for something new. In the climate work that we conducted last year, we estimated with the McKinsey company consultants that by 2030, 1 in 5 clothing items must be traded by a circular system, meaning that it's not just a traditional mode of sales, but for instance, a model where a clothing is loaned or leased, created from recycled materials that goes back into the value chain. And part of the project that we're working on addresses this as well. So the Circular Fashion Partnership was launched last year and is really a collaboration in all possible forms. It's a cross-sectorial project that brings together brands, manufacturers, and recyclers. But beyond that, we also engage with policymakers and have a plan later on this year is to engage with the investment community, all to support the development of the recycling industry in Bangladesh. And we do that in 2 different ways. So we focus on capturing and directing post-production fashion waste back into the production of new fashion products. And I'll explain in the following slides what that really means. And also we focused on finding solutions for COVID-19 related pileup of excess stock. So you may have seen and read or heard in the media that when lockdown started to occur in, for instance, in Europe, that had really a domino effect to many suppliers in fashion producing countries. So orders were cancelled, stock piled up. And this was all happening as we were launching our project. So we've had to be flexible and to navigate the day-to-day issues that our partners faced as well. We at Global Fashion Agenda, our logo, the bottom left, we're based from Copenhagen, as I mentioned, and our expertise is really engaging the industry, making complex sustainability topics accessible and really communicating about them. So for this project, which is focused on Bangladesh, we really needed partners to work with, and Partnership for Growth supported us in finding those partners and developing the program. BGMEA is the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association, which help us to engage with the Bangladesh community of manufacturers and to address local national authorities. And then Reverse Resources is a technology platform specialized in circularity and in textile waste. So even from the start out, we're a collaborative project, and we really believe in the strength of collaboration, especially to address systemic issues. So by collaborating together, we're working towards this long-term scalable circular system. And we've learned from the work that we've done in the past that a lot of brands set sustainability targets. We know that manufacturers see benefits of closing their loop and using their waste in a beneficial way, and that there's more and more textile recyclers. But it's really the collaboration that's missing and facilitating the collaboration, which is made possible through this partnership. So I just wanted to explain our approach in a few simple steps, and you see the 3 main partner types that we have here. What our starting point is really setting up waste segregation. That means working within a manufacturer in Bangladesh to segregate their different waste streams. So segregate it in material types, such as either cotton or polyester, segregate it in different colors, etc. By doing that, following Reverse Resources support, and so our partner support, they work in Bangladesh, and we're able to guarantee a high quality waste, which is then distributed to recyclers for recycling. And this is really the first stage of the project, setting up waste segregation, getting the waste to the suitable recyclers. And the focus of the work is really to demonstrate the business model so that manufacturers are paid more for their waste and that recyclers can buy high quality waste of which the origin is transparent and guaranteed and traceable at a competitive price. The next stage is seeing how the recycled materials can be used by manufacturers to create new recycled products, which go back to the brands. So you could even say the brands produce within the manufacturers and generate waste. That waste goes to a recycler for recycling, and then the recycled product goes back into the brand's collections. And what I believe makes this partnership so unique is that we're answering, besides the need to have access to the materials, really creating a creating traceability and following where those waste streams come from. And that business, as many of you may know, is very opaque. So we're really looking at figuring out what is the infrastructure that we need for circularity, what are the benefits and what's the business value for each of these different stakeholders, and what are the barriers that they're facing, both looking at policy and also at needed investment. So frankly, at the end of this year, we'll be publishing a circularity playbook where we aim to present those findings to the industry. What is the infrastructure? Who are the actors? What's the business opportunity for Bangladesh? What are the barriers? What are our recommendations for them to be overcome? And not that this is then a final, that's a dead end, but that circularity playbook will be able to be replicated, scaled within Bangladesh, but also used in other manufacturing countries as well. So I have a few more slides, which basically dive a little bit deeper into what I just shared. Here you can see an overview of the collaborations between those three main different groups that we're facilitating within this project. Brands supporting their suppliers, motivating waste handling, and exploring how they can integrate recycled materials back into the new collections. And it doesn't say here, but also offer transparency to their end customers into what the origin is of those recycled materials. Manufacturers, how we can really maximize the fair market value for their waste streams. Set up the systems within their facilities, how they can reduce their waste and increase their production of recycled materials, or the use of recycled materials. And recyclers, so we can help answer their specific feedstock needs, and that they can have access to a consistent stream of recycled materials and know the origin there as well. I'll briefly touch on this. So this is really the two stages of the project. I think I already sufficiently addressed it. First, focus on segregating, then looking at how do we recycle this back into the value chain. And here is an example of the traceability and transparency systems that we use. So these are just screenshots of the reverse resources system that we're adopting. And this answers a real need in the fashion industry for greater transparency and greater traceability. At this stage, we're just tracking the quantities of material that we've been able to segregate. We're now at 300,000 tons, which is, I mean, it's a small amount for the size of the industry and the amount of participants that we have in the project. But that's an amount that we will be scaling, and we want to use this to really show what is the opportunity for a country like Bangladesh to become less dependent on importing virgin materials and really use its existing waste as a resource. And that's a huge opportunity that we identify. So these are the examples of the dashboards that the manufacturers, the brands, the recyclers can all access to really follow and see what type of waste we have and where's it going. And the next step for us will be to use this information to calculate the environmental impact savings as well. Because of course, that's the whole purpose that we're working on this project in the first place. How can we reduce the need for virgin materials and make the industry more efficient? Here's an overview of a few of the partners that we're currently working with. They are, I must say, this is a slide out of March and they are increasing as we speak. As you can see, there's several global brands participating in the project. We actually have 85 manufacturing facilities who've completed our factory waste profile, which is a first step. They answer several questions about their type of production and their type of waste streams, and then we support them in determining how eligible they are to participate in the project. And as you see, we have a mixed group of recyclers as well. So we're really looking at how do we leverage these global brands and their power also in a political environment as well. And we really see the benefits of the collaboration across the industry to do so. Okay, I think I see a nod. Okay, great. So why Bangladesh? I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Made in Bangladesh label. Perhaps you are familiar with Bangladesh because you heard of the Rana Plaza incident that took place in 2013, which is a horrific collapse of a manufacturing facility, which killed, I believe it was 1,300 people, and really brought attention to the lacking health and safety situations, not only in Bangladesh, but globally. What you may or may not know is that Bangladesh has really been a country that has grown through the establishment of textile manufacturing. So it's responsible for up to 5 to 7% of the world's textile production and over 11% of GDP. Bangladesh is characterized for having very large manufacturing facilities and a very consistent stream of the type of clothing products that it makes. That means it also has very large and very consistent streams of textile waste. Our partners at Reverse Resources say that this is even the highest value of textile waste that we basically have in the fashion industry. And as of now, a large majority of that waste is being incinerated in boilers to generate energy, or is being exported to India for recycling. Current manufacturers do not earn a lot from their actual waste streams, and we really see that that is the business potential. If we can find alternative energy solutions so that the waste doesn't have to be incinerated, and if we can demonstrate the business model, we really believe we can attract more recycling facilities to Bangladesh and help create a more resilient and independent apparel industry there. I was asked to share a few of the barriers that we're currently facing, and as we're working on the business model, we have already started identifying what political barriers there are, and we have conducted over 60 interviews with different types of stakeholders, going from fashion buyers to sustainability specialists, different types of stakeholders in Bangladesh and the different authorities as well. Thank you, Kristen. The main issues that we're really facing are the informal political control over waste management. We're looking at creating an infrastructure for circularity, but at the same time, a lot of waste management is currently in the informal sector. So how can we create an inclusive circular system that brings everyone with us, but also navigate the sensitivities of the political control that's there today? Export processing zones have limitations on waste materials, and there are official limits to waste generation and taxation linked to that. Furthermore, lack of awareness among policy development of the potential of the circular economy for Bangladesh, and no limits to incineration. These are just a few of the political barriers that we'll be addressing through a series of roundtables, also with the support of P4G and their amazing network to be able to loop in different ministries in Bangladesh. And at the end of this year, we're looking to publish a white paper with political recommendations, not only for looking at Bangladesh and looking at the policymakers in the country, but also addressing the likes of the European Commission and the UNFCCC, and seeing how we can have a more global approach to policy, looking at circular economy as well. So my personal commitment, I've trained as a fashion and brander, I've loved fashion all of my life, but at the same time, I really wanted to contribute to making the world a better place. And this is why I really dedicated my work life to seeing how we can create a more sustainable industry within fashion. What excites me about it is that as an industry, touches us all. So I believe there's great potential to make the change, and yeah, excited to share this with you, and looking forward to any questions that you have. So I'll pause here and thank you again so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.